oppression, the background and birth of Moses. The children of Israel groaned because of the bondage, and they cried out, and their cry came up to Elohim because of the bondage. So Elohim heard their groaning, and Elohim remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And Elohim looked upon the children of Israel, and Elohim acknowledged them. Exodus begins in its story with a small family settling in Egypt with approval of the Pharaoh. Suddenly, the situation changes, becoming slaves forced to work for their Egyptian masters. The situation is becoming increasingly severe. Amidst the suffering, the faithfulness of two women, Shipra and Puah, shines forth as the ray of hope with which Elohim greets his people, a beautiful child rescued from the Nile, Moses. Elohim's people in Egypt, from Abraham to Moses, the triumph of faithfulness, the son of the Nile, the son of the Nile, the failed deliverer. The people of Elohim in Egypt. These are the names of the sons of Israel who went to Egypt with Jacob, each with his family. The second book of Moses was called Exodus in Latin because of its subject matter, but in Hebrew it is known as Shemot, names because of its opening words. These names are those of Jacob and his sons, a small group of 70 people. Over time, they grew into a people with an army of about 600,000 warriors. Jacob's son Joseph was a minister to a 17th dynasty pharaoh of Hyksos, not Egyptian origin. When the Hyksos were defeated, a new dynasty began in Egypt, which did not know Joseph. This brought Israel to a difficult situation. However, at the end of the book of Exodus, the situation changes completely. Israel worships in freedom before the very presence of Elohim. The teaching of the book is clear. Elohim is in control. He will save us, even if circumstances make it seem impossible. From Abraham to Moses. Then the Lord said to him, Know for certain that for 400 years your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and that they will be enslaved and mistreated there. Elohim had promised to give Abraham the land of Canaan, but warned him about a 400-year delay in fulfilling this plan. Moses and Paul and add 30 years to this period, taking it back to the call at Haran. From Abraham's call at Haran until Jacob's arrival in Egypt, 215 years. From Jacob's arrival in Egypt until the Exodus, 215 years. And how did Jacob arrive in Egypt? In a completely miraculous way. Despite the fratricidal attempts to kill Joseph, he became Prime Minister of Egypt. Thanks to his position, he was able to bring his entire family. When did all this happen? We don't know the exact dates, but we know enough to fit them into known history, which also has inexact dates. In the 418th year after the Israelites came out of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of Ziv, the second month he began to build the temple of the Lord. 1 Kings 6:1 says the Exodus occurred 430 years before the second year of Solomon. If this date is accurate and inclusive, it puts us at 1445 BC. If we consider this a round number and take into account the death of Pharaoh, Exodus took place in 1450 BC. With this data, we can determine several moments in Moses' life. Amos 1 defeats the Hyksos. He is the Pharaoh who did not know Joseph and enslaved Israel. Amenophis 1 1550 1530 he continued to oppress Israel. Thutmose 1530-1517 he ordered the killing of the Hebrew children. Moses 1530-1410. He was adopted by the daughter of Thutmose I, Hatshepsut. Thutmose II 1517. During his reign, Moses fled Egypt 1490. Hatshepsut 1479. He died before his son returned to Egypt. Thutmose III 1450. 1479-1450. The Pharaoh of the Exodus. His firstborn son was in charge of the livestock, but never reigned as he died during the 10th plague. Amenophis II 1450. 1424. Son of Thutmose III, but not his firstborn. The triumph of loyalty. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. The 10th Egyptian dynasty hated foreigners. Moreover, the Israelites were numerous enough to revolt, so they gradually subdued them. They appointed commissioners to force them to build buildings. They tightened their demands, turning them into workers' slaves. They decreed the death of the males using midwives. Finally, they imposed the death of the male children by force. In the midst of this anguish, the faithfulness of the midwives, Shiphrah and Puah, stands out. Moses omits Pharaoh's name, but gives us their names. It also records for our learning how Elohim blessed them for their faithfulness. The son of the Nile. And she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. Beautiful falls short of describing Jochebed's son. The Hebrew term tov, good, beautiful, perfect, is the same one of Elohim uses to describe the perfection of his creation. Elohim had special plans for him. A mother took a risk, a young woman was moved, a child spoke with wisdom, and the future deliverer was saved from death. We don't know the name his parents gave him, but we do know the name given to him by his adoptive mother, the daughter of Pharaoh, happy Moses, son of the god Nile. But he only called himself son, Moses. His mother made good use of the few years she had him in her care. She taught him to be a true child of Elohim. What an important task mothers perform in raising their children in the fear of Elohim. Elohim had heard the mother's prayers. Her faith had been rewarded. It was his deep gratitude that she entered upon her now, safe and happy thus. She faithfully improved her opportunity to educate her child for Elohim. She felt confident that he had been preserved for some great work, and she knew that he must soon be given up to his royal mother, to be surrounded with influences that would tend to lead him away from Elohim. All this rendered her more diligent and careful in his instruction than in that of her other children. She endeavored to imbue his mind with the fear of Elohim, and the love of the truth and justice, and earnestly prayed that he might be preserved from every corrupting influence. She showed him the folly and sin of idolatry, and early taught him to bow down and pray to the living God, to the living Elohim, who alone could hear him and help him every emergency. The failed liberator. When Pharaoh heard of this, he tried to kill Moses, but Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian, where he sat down by a well. We know little about Moses' youth. As a possible heir to the throne, he would have received an education for it, including military and political expertise. We do know that shortly before Moses turned 40, Thutmose II was proclaimed Pharaoh due to political intrigue. Moses then believed that the time had come to free his people. It was a grave mistake. Not even his people considered him their liberator. In just a few days, he went from being a respected member of Pharaoh's court to a fugitive shepherd. However, Elohim did not reject Moses. He continued to count on him despite his mistakes. The magnificent palace of Pharaoh, the monarch's throne were held out as an inducement to Moses, but he knew that the sinful pleasures that make men forget Elohim were in its lordly courts. He looked up beyond the gorgeous palace, beyond a monarch's crown, to the high honors that will be bestowed on the saints of the Most High in a kingdom untainted by sin. He saw by faith an imperishable crown that the King of heaven would place on the brow of the overcomer. This faith led him to turn away from the lordly ones of earth and join in the humble, poor, despised nation that had chosen to obey Elohim rather than to serve him.